Jim Longworth, and welcome to another edition of Triad Today. Coming to you once again from the beautiful Senior Botanical Garden in downtown Kernersville, where we're enjoying the hospitality of John Wisden and his staff. It is beautiful. I hope you'll social distance yourself. Come on out and enjoy the daffodils and the tulips and thousands of things to see at the garden. We'll tell you more about that later on. Coming up later on in our program, we'll have the infamous roundtable. We'll see what kind of controversies we get in there. And we'll also have some great topics and guests coming forward, so I hope you'll stay tuned for the whole program. First, what I want to start out with, though, is something that's new, but not really new. It's kind of new and it's kind of old, and if I've just confused you, I have a special guest who's going to unconfuse you. Dr. Mike Wakeford is Interim Executive Director of Muse Winston-Salem. He's also Associate Professor at the UNC School of the Arts. Welcome, Mike. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Now, let's try to unconfuse people. What is Muse Winston-Salem?
Well, Muse Winston-Salem stands for their Museum of Understanding, Storytelling, and Engagement. It's a community history museum, to put it in the simplest possible ways. It's also the organization formerly known as New Winston Museum.
There you go, because the New Winston Museum had been up and running for several years, right?
That's right. We opened in 2012, and it had been an idea circulating around the community for many years, but in 2012 we opened in a small building on South Marshall Street in Winston-Salem, dedicated to telling the stories of Winston-Salem, and there are many of those.
All right, we're going to get to some specific stories that have something to do with the pandemic, as a matter of fact, in just a second. But first, are there any upcoming programs or activities in general that folks might want to know about or plan for down the road?
Yeah, well, like a lot of organizations right now, we're trying to figure out our way forward during the stay-at-home pandemic time. But we are trying to stay busy and give folks some opportunities to spend some time with us. Those are obviously virtual right now. We are planning a couple of programs between now and a month from now that will start to look at one of the really important stories unfolding nationwide, but also in our community, leading up to the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, or women's suffrage.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing some virtual programs around that theme. We also have some online activities that folks can access through our webpage and our Facebook page. Things like encouraging kids to look at historic photos and do their best versions in Lego.
Sure. I think there's some historic photos of me on there from 1890. No comment.
Yeah.
Now let's shift to something that's very serious, but I think this is going to be helpful too. And let's go back to the pandemic you mentioned.
Yeah.
You have something called the COVID-19 Community Archive that you emailed me about. What is that?
Well, like a lot of organizations around the country, history organizations, we realized as soon as this pandemic started that we were going to be experiencing in real time a historic event, one that is going to be talked about and written about for a long time. And so we knew that one of the things that an organization like ours could do would be to immediately go into action mode and encourage folks to tell us how they are experiencing this historical event. And so we've set up a website, a Google page that you can also find very easily through our Facebook page. And we encourage people to go on there and fill out an online form or download a PDF and share their experiences.
Tell their stories. I think that's great. Up on screen, www.musews.org. I hope you will check that out. As Mike was talking about, and also a shout out to the good folks at Visit Winston-Salem. That's visitwinstonsalem.com. Rich and Marquita doing a fine job with tourism and promoting things in this area, and it's so good that they suggested this topic for us. Mike, I hope you'll come back sometime and keep us updated.
I'd love to. Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll be right back after this. Now on Triad Today, and with the bad news coming that we could have record unemployment, 19–20% even, it becomes even more important that we have some knowledge of where we can seek job training services and try to get back into the workforce later on. Well, fortunately, the good folks at Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina are working hard to make sure they're there to help. And we're going to find out more about that now with our good buddy Andy Ward, who's been with us before. He's Regional Manager of Workforce Development in the Eastern District of Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina. Welcome back, Andy.
Yeah, good to be here.
We're still under these stay-at-home orders during the pandemic. Is Goodwill continuing to provide service to the community, and if so, in what way?
Yeah, so we are continuing the same services that we've always provided, from training and employment opportunities, And we basically had to adapt the delivery method in which we provide those. So
everything has been in person before. So
been in person, so we've had to lean into technology, and so we've done a lot of online trainings, webinars, things like that. We also have launched our Goodwill Cares initiative, which really lets people know that we are still out, we are still providing services, still in business, but it's also connecting folks to other agencies and folks here in the territory that are also offering amazing services during this time.
Yeah, we'll give the website in a minute, but that'll take the folks to the Goodwill Cares and everything, so they'll know exactly where they can text or email for various things. Now, let me piggyback off of that. Are you guys still helping people to find jobs, even though they're kind of scarce right now?
Absolutely. So, as we all know, we've lost a lot of jobs in this this area, but at the same time, there's a lot of new jobs that are coming about. And so there's different sectors tied to, you look at the grocery industry, you look at, a lot of things within fast food, you look at things tied to delivery, places like Amazon, FedEx, UPS. Some of these companies right now are hiring in record numbers. And so, it's really going to come down to what does your resume say about you? And, we saw that back in 2008, that your resume and how that was molded and what that said is really what was going to launch you into that. And so, we are continuing to provide those services when it comes to helping folks' resumes be on par, knowing folks knowing what companies are actually hiring and going forward. And a good example of that was a man who he had been in the railroad industry for a long time and was actually notified back before COVID even hit that they were due to downsizing he was going to lose his job in May. Well, COVID came along and they sped that process up for him, and so he was kind of out on the curb like a lot of folks. He came into Goodwill, ended up using one of our Career Connections folks who was working from home. She helped him get his resume together, get everything on par. He ended up finding a company that was hiring for an electrician. And so he applied for that, and during the process they said, you might be an awesome electrician, but we think you might be a better manager.
Wow.
Would you be willing to interview for that as well too? So he said absolutely, went in with the help from Goodwill and the folks there. He was able to land that job, better pay, better benefits, more perks. He got a company car, gas card, all of that than what he was making before. So the jobs are there. You might have to fight for them, but we're here to help do that.
I just think that's an amazing story, and it gives us hope too, because we know that we're in a rough situation right now, and yet you guys can help us figure out ways to think outside the box. Like you said, there may be some things that I'm better at than what I'm doing, and so you're going to lead me to that because
Absolutely.
You know there's going to be a job opening there. Very quickly, when will the Career Connection Centers actually reopen so that people can go in person?
Right, so we are monitoring everything that's coming out of the state and federal levels to make sure that safety is first on that. But our goal, if everything stays as planned, would be to do a soft open of our career centers on May 11th. So
Okay.
this upcoming Monday, and that's primarily going to be to care for those folks who've not had access to Wi-Fi, computers, camera, thing like that, so that they can come in and get the services they need during this time as well.
Well, up on screen, Goodwill NWNC, which stands for NorthwestNorthCarolina.org. For the radio listening audience in WSJS, I'll say it again, www.goodwillnwnc.org, where you can navigate your way through to find out how you can get in touch and learn more about these job services and job training. Andy, I can't thank you enough for what you and your teammates are doing for so many people, especially in a time like this, and we're going to need you even more as we come out on the other end. Thanks for doing this.
Good to be here. Thanks, Jim.
All right. We'll be right back. Now on Triad Today, always glad when some of the folks from Alamance Community College can drop by because they do so much, not only just for their immediate community, but throughout the whole area and trying to get people to work, get them trained. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about right now with a special guest. Next to me is Jennifer Mock. She's Director of Academic and Career Readiness at Alamance Community College. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Much of what you and your team do is to help folks, obviously, make sure they get a high school diploma, that they're ready to go from that standpoint. But you're also focused on what comes after high school. Tell me what.
Yes. Well, as you know, getting a high school diploma is the first step. So we need to do more. And so we basically have a lot of programs that we can do both at the same time.
Yeah, and I understand that there's a governor's initiative called My Future NC. So I'm wondering what that's all about and how that might fit in with what you guys are doing.
Well, much of the national dialogue has been about the skills gap and how we're going to fill it. And so one of the ways in which Alamance is addressing it is having what we call crossover or transition programs into the college.
Right. Now, there's something that I think it was Ed that sent me an email one day about something called Basic Skills Plus. Now, I want you to help me understand what that is, because I know that, statistically, people say there's so many North Carolinians that don't even have any post-secondary education. So now, how is Alamance Community College facing that challenge, and what is this Basic Skills Plus thing?
Right. Well, Basic Skills Plus is actually a free program, so someone can come, get their GED, their high school equivalency, and at the same time they can do pathway programs like pharmacy tech, machining, child care, nursing, so they can do both at the same time and be successful at both.
Right, and you had a lot of good feedback from that then?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, from people that have gone through that. There's also something that, that I read about called Career College. Now, who does that, what is that about, and who does that help?
Right. Well, Career College is an exciting program, and that program is specifically designed for our students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And so we have programs that work on academics, social skills, but they're also working on pathways such as auto mechanics, horticulture, animal care, and so they're doing both at the same time and then seeking employment afterwards.
Yeah, and I know we didn't rehearse this, but again, I'm sort of assuming just from reading what you're saying that your big thrust is like, let's get people prepared, and then, but you've also got to keep an eye on, I would think, what jobs are out there, what the demand is,
right?
What can you get into once you leave, you know, and do these courses? I mean, how do you make that happen?
Well, we work with our job boards, and we looked at our community and say what jobs are in demand. So we want to prepare people for jobs that are actually out there and they can go and get employed right away.
Right. How did you, I'm going to get personal with you for just a second. Why did you choose this field? I'm always curious when I have somebody on the show for the first time. What was there a person who impacted on you or influenced you, or what made you want to do this?
Well, I've always at the heart loved literacy, and I love children and families, and so I found this is a way to impact families with their literacy. So when one person in the family changes, a whole family changes, and that starts with the first step, getting education, and then getting a job to sustain their family.
Absolutely. You pick up that paycheck and it makes all the difference. I just think that's great. Before time runs out, let me do a couple things here. One is to make sure we put this information up on screen. AlamancecC.edu is the website for Alamance Community College. I'll say it again for the radio listening audience, AlamancecC.edu. And now, are these things that we talked about, I don't want to put you on the spot, but are these things like the Basic Skills Plus and some other things that you're doing, can people just go to the website, get in touch with your team, and say, I want to get in there, or is there a certain time frame that you can only enter it?
That's a great question. So we do have entry times, but they're periodically throughout the year. So the best strategy is just to call, and then we walk the person through the different steps.
That's great. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
Right.
That's really
Thank you.
cool. Yeah. All right, Jennifer Mock. We'll be right back after. Back now on Triad Today, and so glad to have this special guest with us, especially at this time that we're going through, where we want to make sure our senior citizens are protected and safe and healthy. And I want to introduce her to you right now. She's Whitney Bray. She's Director of Community Relations at Priddy Manor. That's P-R-I-D-D-Y, Priddy Manor. It's also a pretty manor. I've been play on words there. Part of the Ridge Care family of communities. Welcome to Triad Today.
Thank you.
Before we get started, tell us where Priddy Manor is and what kind of community is it?
We are a 79-bed assisted living community in the rural area of King, North Carolina. We offer assisted living services and memory care services.
Now, we're still in this pandemic era, and a lot of precautions going on. Difficult times for senior living facilities. What are you and your team doing? What kind of infectious disease controls are implemented? How are things going?
It's going good. We actually train our team members annually with infectious control, but because of COVID-19, we've actually did some refresher courses on hand washing, PPE, and infection control, just to make sure we're on top of things.
And personal protective equipment, things like that. I mean, have you stepped up that, or how's it going?
Absolutely. We have no shortage, anything like that. We're very prepared.
And of course, the governor's orders keeps referring to, in general, nursing homes, senior facilities, senior communities. They're still saying no visitors and this kind of thing. And I guess that's the same with you, right? No outside visitors to the, except for staff. Let's spend a couple minutes talking about that, because the psychological thing of this, and we all have, or I think most of us know or have somebody in our family that's in this situation, they get so isolated, and at any age that's bad. It's got to be particularly bad on seniors who really look forward to visits from family and that kind of thing. What are you guys doing to try to make that better?
Our communities, we've really amped up our social and activities programs. We've also encouraged our families and residents to communicate with their loved ones as much as possible, whether that be a phone call, drop in by the window and wave hello, a FaceTime, a note. We've also really tried to get our residents outside, get them some vitamin D and fresh air.
Now, I know we didn't rehearse this, but let me just play devil's advocate here. What if I have, let's say, an elderly mom who's living with you? And I say, well, I'm going to call, a pretty matter today and just find out, is it okay for me to keep mom there, or should I bring mom home, or whatever? What kind of advice and comfort do you give to families?
It's actually safer in the community. We're screening everyone that comes in and out, taking temperatures, asking several questions, and we're making sure our team members are safe outside of the community too. We're encouraging them to do the social distancing thing.
Right. Now, let me get personal with you for a second. What led you to a career in helping seniors and working with a group like the Ridge Care family of communities? Was there a person or something that happened or someone that recommended? What led you to this career?
So when I was actually in college, I worked for Ridge Care as a CNA, and I was on the front line and I did the hands-on thing. I left Ridge Care for a short while and came back and did staffing and was promoted to the sales team. And I don't know, this is where I feel like I need to be.
Well, I get that sense from you too. What kind of gratification? I guess this could apply a question to any of your team and staff, because I know they're very dedicated over there. What gratification do you get from helping seniors and their families?
A lot of times when we go in the homes, we see how they're doing at home, what they're doing. We don't see the best situations sometimes, and when we see them come into the community, they make relationships, they do well, they're eating regular meals, they're taking their medicine, and some of them actually do better.
Absolutely.
And it just makes a world of difference. It puts a smile on my face.
Well, that's great. I want to put some information up on screen. I didn't mean to blab too long there with you, but I want to make sure to get up here. www.ridgecare.com is the website. You can also call 336-9937-555 for information about all their different Ridge Care family of communities throughout the state. And Whitney, I really appreciate what you and your team do. Will you come back sometime?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back. Back now on Triad Today, just about time for the roundtable, but first another shout out to the good folks here at the Senior Botanical Garden for letting us camp out here over the past few weeks, and we will continue to do so for a while. John Wisden and his staff are great. I hope you all come out, social distance yourself to your heart's desire, and enjoy all the great blooming flowers and bushes at seniorbotanicalgarden.org is the website. Also pick up your copy of Yes Weekly. It's free, lots of good stuff in there to read. And now to our roundtable. Let's introduce him on my right, but always the political left, Ogie Overman, the great broadcaster and journalist. We have a special guest at the round table behind us, behind Ogie. Beautiful Rhonda Fox, who ran for Congress a few months ago. Just really more importantly, she was chief of staff for Congressman Alma Adams and did a lot of great work up on the Hill for our country. And we're glad to have her back in Greensboro. She's a great attorney, Rhonda Fox. And rounding out the group, Keith Granberry, founder of Helping Hands Consultants. In fact, I'm going to start with Keith in just a second, because the sad news we have to report is that our good friend Vivian Burke, Dr. Vivian Burke, passed away Tuesday night. She was 86 years old. She served for 43 years on Winston-Salem City Council, 6 times as mayor pro tem. Did a lot for the community and worked very closely with Keith when he was head of the Urban League. Keith, a quick comment on what Vivian meant to the community.
Well, she meant so much to the community. First of all, having an African-American woman lead the city council was within itself a major accomplishment. But what she meant to me personally and the city was, when I was president of Urban League, she was able to provide us with opportunities to receive a building. And we got the building for $1 because of her desire to help her community. And she always stayed a major part of that community. You could call her and talk to her, and it's just it's an amazing loss for the city of Winston-Salem.
It is. She was
an amazing loss.
She was, and she was a big proponent of job training for all ages, and especially had concerns for youth. Okay, let's get to the first topic. The Alaska School Board has pulled a number of books from school libraries, including The Great Gatsby. They say there's too much sex in that. They pulled Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings because they say it's, quote, anti-white. Are you guys and gals okay with banning certain books in public schools, Ogie?
You know, it's hard to believe we're even having this conversation in 2020, Jim. It's just appalling that we're still talking about burning books. I mean,
banning them.
Burning, but you know, burn them.
Rhonda.
It's a shame. It's definitely a slippery slope once we start banning any books, and I definitely think that what Alaska's doing is shameful. And for anyone that lives in the Triad, Maya Angelou, that's our hometown shiro.
Oh yeah. I mean, could it be appropriate to ban certain books at certain ages, though?
No, I think it becomes a slippery slope. Where do you start? Where do you end?
At what age?
At what age? And on what topics?
Keith.
First of all, when you use black or minorities and Alaska in the same sentence, I mean, that's the first thing. So that's questionable right there.
Right, that's right.
But I think
what was the old joke on the Bullwinkle and Rocky show? They said that Canada had been overrun by Canadians.
That's right. So, yeah, Alaska and
right.
Banning books.
Alaska's been overrun by whites. That's what but anyway, you were saying what?
I think that we have to educate our young people on what books mean. So I don't think you should be banning books unless they're pornographic material. But other than that, you need to be educating people. And of course, you know how I feel about Maya Angelou.
Right.
We have a hospital named after her.
That's right. You did. You had that hospital wing named after her, and you were good friends. A great lady. All right, let's do a quick thing on politics. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but former Vice President Joe Biden says that he never sexually assaulted anyone. There is a young lady who says otherwise from something that she says happened in 1993. Quickly, guys and gals, who do you believe? And either way, will it have an effect on Biden's candidacy?
Well, I think there's a lot of holes in that lady's story already, and I don't think Uncle Joe, he'll come out of this unscathed. He'll be fine.
Rhonda.
I'm not judge and I'm not jury, but I can tell you when a woman says that she's been through something, when anyone says they've been through anything, they should be heard. And I think she's had her chance to be heard. And I think Joe Biden has been accountable. He's made himself accessible, available to talk about it. And that's what we need in terms of a good leader. And I think people will hold him accountable if they see fit.
Mr. Granberry.
I think that with his opponent having the issues that he had, I don't think this is going to be that big of an issue. But I think that anytime men have to be very aware of women and how they treat women. And I think sometimes Joe Biden seems to be a very touchy-feely type of guy. And so you've got to be mindful of that because women have to have their right to choose. And I think that's important.
All right, in other news, this one gets me. 19 Forsyth County juveniles have been arrested for stealing 46 cars from local dealerships. The thieves range in age from 9 to 16, so the police would not release their names to the public because they're minors. Okay, guys and gals, should the state law be changed so that the public knows the identity of juveniles arrested for serious crimes? I'm not talking about being caught with marijuana or something. I know that Rhonda has been an advocate for, trying to make sure we don't incarcerate too many people for minor things. But in this case, stealing cars, Ogie.
Yeah, it's a toughie. I think, though, if I'm gonna err, it's gonna be in favor of protecting the kids, all kids' rights, as opposed to, I know there's rotten apples, but still, big picture.
Rhonda.
We cannot release the identities of children convicted of anything. They're kids. Their minds are still forming, and we can't hold that against them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, but my car is just as gone as it would be if a 30-year-old
Yeah,
stole.
a 9-year-old, the thought that a 9-year-old had any cognition really truly of what they were doing, the implications for their entire life.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in our criminal justice system. Look at expungement. You can't expunge records. They're always there.
Keith.
I think that you cannot do that. I think the criminal justice system has to be reformed, and if we start doing that, many of kids, specifically minority kids, will be labeled, and that will be a problem.
All right, on a lighter note, we end on this. North Carolina Supreme Court has ruled that it's not a breach of the peace to give the middle finger to a police officer. Guys and gals, have you ever displayed a gesture that maybe wasn't correct? to anyone? Ogie?
Well, maybe once or twice, but let me tell you a true story. In 1969, I was thumbing back to college in Greenville. Long hair, beard, hippie. This state trooper leaned over in his car and shot me the biggest bird you will ever see.
That's astounding.
So I didn't sue him, so he has no right to sue.
Quickly, Rhonda, have you ever made a bad gesture?
Of course, I'm human. So I definitely agree with the court in this, and I will tell you, we've got to have greater accountability within our criminal justice system. Flipping someone off is not arrested.
No. Keith, have you ever made an ugly gesture to anybody?
Never in my life have I made an ugly gesture.
You know what?
In my whole life,
yeah, you know what is
never did that before.
I'll tell you what is illegal.
I have never done that before. I want to do it right now, but I've never done it before.
It's illegal to lie on this show. That's what it is. All right, well, that's all the time we have. Oh, except for this, and this is a true story. In order to discourage large crowds from gathering in public places during the pandemic, one town has started spreading fresh chicken manure across all the public parks to keep people out. It's a true story. Asked why he got the idea for spreading manure, the mayor said, watching Trump's daily briefings. Did you like that? Did you like that? All right. For all of us here on Triad Today, I'm Jim Longworth. We'll see you next time.